around Overland Park and Olathe and Johnson County, they're anti-police. Right? They use anti-police people to harass former cops that have murder, like the murder contracts. The psychological murder contracts. They took the psychological murder contract here. They'll call it a lead or some shit, but it's bullshit. Right? The cops here are dirty. If you can fucking arrest them, arrest them. Those the mayor and everyone else. They dump the fucking poison dope into fucking Kansas City, and they live out here in $1 million homes. Right? And yes sir, no sir. The sheriff, yes sir, no sir. Just give me my fucking kickback. Right? Right. So apparently, there's going to be some cases that are going to be that are going to come up that are going to be cleared through the process I'm describing. If it doesn't happen the way we got to do it, because there's a mess. Like ICE can't release certain information to detectives because you can't consider them completely friendly, right? And obviously, the homicide detectives can only do so much, right? Well, if we don't coordinate it, you're going to deport people with information that, quite honestly, if we give them a resident, again, they might just be an average person you picked up. I'm not telling you to leave somebody who's a homicide person or anything like that in the country, but there's people you're going to pick up that's going to have information about these cases. They were possibly afraid. Again, I'm receiving psychic information from the people in Chicago, the immigrants. They're not sure how to go about it, but they're willing to provide information. Right? But they were afraid to provide them, and they're still afraid to provide information. Right? But if you get them on the side in that deportation situation, I'm not telling you to muscle anyone, but within reason, they're going to figure out. Right? Again, some of them will give it up if they can stay. Right? Some of them, they want to give it up, but they can't. They're afraid. Right? But we have to be careful because we got to get them aside. We got to put them in the right mood, the right comfort zone, and get them to give up the information. If they think they're going to, what I'm getting is if they know they're protected, they're going to give you all the information you want about what you've been asking about, and then they have additional information. You can actually put some of these. What I understand, some of these people want out of where they've been, but they can't get there because they don't trust the system. So if you take them and you could actually put. What I understand is that you can put them in a car, like one of your cars with tinted windows, and they can drive around the city and help you do all your work, right? Both ICE and homicide. But they don't feel comfortable right now until you put them in that comfort zone. That's what I'm receiving. They're scared because they don't want to be deported. They have information. They're afraid. They don't know how to do it. They don't know how to go about providing information because they're scared. Right. You're going to if you do it right, you're going to clear cases. That's what the inference is. Like they're going to provide you the information. Because it's organized crime and racketeering. They have it here. You can't see it as a white person. As a regular white person, you can't see what's going on in these Spanish communities. I lived in Santa Fe long enough to figure it out. I saw it also. Like God shows me stuff. I was in one of the things they use is called the Coyote calling card. It's just a calling card, like on the phone, but like communities that are run by the Coyotes, you'll see the Coyote calling card on the wall, and everybody knows that the Coyotes run the community, right? And there's certain people that are enforcers. They know they're enforcers, right? To you, are just like people hanging out, but the Spanish people know who each person is, right? Thank you, Larry. In Indianapolis, I saw a couple of things real quick. Hashem showed it to me, right? But it was mostly in Santa Fe that I saw it. Right. To us, we just see a bunch of Spanish people. To them, they see the pecking order, the organized crime, the racketeering, right? The strong arm. There's a lot of young women in Chicago right now that are Latino women that are kind of stuck in their life and they're willing to break free and hope to be helped, and they can help. Also, I forgot that Chicago, like trains came up today, and I forgot that Chicago was a big train hub. Right? I don't know if it's freight. I guess freight too. I imagine it's both. Right? Freight. So again, that's another thing that we have to concentrate on is things moving by freight. Well, it's going to disrupt narcotics distribution through in and out of Chicago, right? What we want to do is disrupt narcotics distribution throughout the nation to bring down the supply, right? We want to see if we're not seeing supply dropping, we're doing something wrong. Now there was a drop in supply, I understand, last fall. If that was honest, who knows what the stuff is anymore. I'm almost out of battery power. Well, we saw that last supposedly it happened last fall. I don't know if I haven't seen anything recent. But hopefully, well, that's the key. We got to drop it on the street. No matter how many seizures you make, if you don't drop the supply on the street, then you didn't do anything. If you can put in the news that you grabbed, it's you largest seizure in history, 10 million tons. If you don't see the supply drop on the street, then you didn't do anything. That's really how it works. That's why it's like it's like stupid. Oh, I mean, I think Banks is okay. He's like, we got 10 million tons. Yeah, but look, they're still selling it on the street. Look at that person over there. They're all fucked up. Right. They're all like, hanging over like zombies. When we cause that to disappear, and Trump says, throw them in a loony bin. No, we need to do it better than that. We need to make sure that the drug disappears, that the product disappears. Right. Yeah, I'll keep projecting. I'm going to keep speaking. I'm going to call you names. It's going to fuck you all off. The cop killers around here. They take contracts to kill cops. Right. Came in my apartment, ripped something off. I said, "Come." I walked outside. I said, "Come here. Tell me who you are, so we can go fisticuff." Tell me, no, don't come walking around here like, oh, get violent and hit me so I can get you arrested. Come walk in front of me, you little pussy bitch, and tell me you went in my apartment, stole something. We'll go fisticuff. They all start driving. They have people ride by in their little carts that are maintenance. Right? Not test me. Right? Have the neighbors come out and walk around. They're little anti-police snitches. They're anti-police, man. The people they use here are anti-police. The man on the end might not be anti-police, but I don't know what's up with him. He looks like he's on meth. He's like 65, 70 years old. Looks like he's on meth. Right. I'm like, is this guy drunk? Are you on meth? What is it? He just sits there all day. He stares out into space, and he's got these little, dilated pupils and stuff. They use him to fuck me off. The other one's like these people from New Mexico or some shit. They're so anti-cop, it ain't even funny. Right, so you want to kill a cop? You use anti-cop people. That's how they are, man. They're fucking pieces of shit around here. Cops are using anti-cop. Now, it's not all the cops. I could have got 5 tickets while I lived here. Even a couple of them, the cops actually stepped on the gas, getting ready to pull me over. Like, it's him. So it's not all the cops. It's like a couple crooked detectives. You get the detective job when you're a fucking corrupt piece of shit and you protect the drug dealers and the sex traffickers. Then you become a detective, right? Right. That's what they got going on around here. Hopefully you don't have it going on in Chicago because maybe ICE will find it. Right. Thanks, Larry. So they use all the anti-police people because they're actually anti-police. I'm anti-corruption. They try to say I'm anti-police. I'm anti-corruption. They're anti-police. Right. I understand the sack in Kansas City is part of it. Right. That's what came up psychically. But you'll clear some cases if you coordinate that right. If you don't, you're gonna send the information to fucking whatever country, yeah, to Africa. Your interview subject will be in freaking Africa. But it's not necessarily people committed crime. They haven't. There's what I'm getting is that people want to give up information. They just don't know how to do it, and they don't feel comfortable. But if you tell them, we have this program for people to help, like for a homicide case, I should say, DHS should say, yeah, right. We have a case. You give up information, clear this homicide, you can get your residency. We can let you stay here. Right? We don't work that. We're hoping to work. I'm hoping that they work it again. I don't know what they do, what they're going to do, but I'm hoping they work that angle in Chicago, especially. There's a lot of people there with a lot of information. I understand inside, just psychically, right? Again, when you live in a community where people are standing on a corner, they're gonna kill you and get you killed if you say anything to a cop. They're paranoid. And some of me, like, they never lived anywhere in their life. They lived in some area in Guatemala or Mexico, and now they're in Chicago, and they don't know anything. All they know is they give sex to this guy and they get to survive. Right? Thanks. It came up that it just came in from all different angles. I couldn't figure out what it was earlier because I'm receiving from some of the young women and they're scared, and I'm trying to like do the mind thing. Hey, when they come in, you tell them you got information. Like, you see ICE, you tell them if you got information, you tell them you got information. They may be able to take care of you. I can't guarantee. Right? I just keep thinking that, and I just couldn't pick up what they were saying and what was going on. Well, some of it was the detective side of it, right? Well, Marsh Service. See, I don't know how to do it because again, I don't think because the mayor has the right to say what he says, and I think some of it's illegal, but because I think some of it's obstruction, right? But he says that because let's say you say, okay, I'm going to give a list to ICE of all the people, right, that I need to interview, but I don't know if the mayor would allow that, how that works, right? Again, you do what you want, but you could lose your job. Right? And we don't want to lose a good detective. They're really a good detective. But if you're a pussy bitch and you're anti-police, now they're gonna try to cuck me. That's what they're trying to do. Believe me, I'm a metaphysics genius. I know what they're doing. Right? Trying to alter my sexuality by fucking me off here with their anti-police pukes. Right? No, I'm about to move to Pennsylvania. Actually, I'm going through that area. I imagine. Right? Anyone can't let me leave. I mean, somebody's paying. So they went and do their last job, make their last million or whatever it is. Right. Believe me, social media people are so filthy with narcotics distribution. They're part of what's covering over the narcotics. Because again, if you got a Google computer, and you run Google and you run X and you run Facebook, you know where all the cops are, right? Or mostly every cop. So you can move the narcotics around the cops. Believe me, they're part of it. And all the cops that get working for social media, they're all the sexy girls and the sexy boys that had sex with the bosses. Now they move on and have sex with the Facebook bosses, right? That all works. It's all based on sex, not capability. Everybody knows people misexploit children. Like, how'd they get that fucking job? Used to be in the Marshals and in the FBI. Well, how'd they get that job? They're a fucking idiot. Now they in fucking like Facebook. How'd they get that job? He's a fucking idiot. Right? Just be the pussy bitch, right? Right. I'm almost out of power here. So, Yeah, somebody has. Yeah, we have to do it now. We have to make sure that we. I know what the system you can use, and maybe the mayor lets you give them, all you wanted, all the people you want to interview. Again, it's not necessarily just wanting people. It's the idea we have people we want to review, but again, I don't know. I may or may not allow that. So, well, again, the idea is once they get picked up, maybe you'll know they'll get picked up. I don't even know how to do it. I can't because again, it's the mayor's not allowing. The mayor will allow the interview, right? Will allow the detectives to work with ICE as far as once the person's detained. But the question is, how do you create the liaison connection to coordinate that effectively? Again, as detectives know, you have to set the mood up right. You have to get everything working right. So, again, we don't want ICE itself doesn't want to ruin your interview and your case. Right. So there has to be the Marshal Service is probably the closest thing to a liaison work between the federal government and the homicide detectives and SIU and all that's going on right now. I mean, FBI has some, but usually the Marshal Service is a little more connected directly through their regional task forces. Right. Well, yeah, the operation should be huge, right? I'm hearing something from the mayor's office, maybe that there's a way that they believe, but it's not. It's not okay, right? You can provide, right? They can provide but it's not a homicide suspect necessarily. It's somebody has information about a case, a homicide, and then could lead to a homicide subject, right? Suspect, right? And also the SIU cases. I'm seeing that's a variety of different things that are going on there. But people have information. They want to give it up, but they want to be protected. That's the bottom line of all this. That's what I'm getting out of Chicago right now. I've been getting out of Chicago for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Well, stay peaceful, praise God, and all that you do, praise God.